Welcome to tonight's journey of profound deep ocean discovery. Tonight we will explore the deep ocean floor together. Hidden ecosystems thrive in complete absence of solar sunlight. These habitats challenge our understanding of biology entirely. We will learn about fascinating hydrothermal vent creatures. Chemical synthesis drives this unique underwater biosphere entirely. 100 facts await your peaceful mind tonight. Settle in and let the outside world fade away. Focus your thoughts on marine science and deep biology. The deep sea holds many quiet biological secrets. Prepare to absorb knowledge about extreme marine ecosystems. These organisms survive near boiling thermal fluid vents. They rely on toxic minerals instead of sunlight. Our exploration begins with the very first historical discovery. Scientific history changed forever during that monumental ocean expedition. Let your breathing match the steady deep ocean currents. Relax your muscles as we begin our scientific narrative. This audio will guide you toward deeply restful sleep. Listen closely to the marvels of deep ocean biology. Knowledge brings a profound sense of universal psychological calm. Embrace the tranquility of scientific data and marine facts. We will proceed through the first 10 fascinating facts. Each detail reveals a brilliant evolutionary biological adaptation strategy. Fact number 1 details the first historic vent discovery. Scientists found hydrothermal vents in 1977. Researchers explored the Galapagos Rift in the Pacific Ocean. They utilized a manned submersible vessel named Alvin. The depth measured 2,500 meters exactly. Geologists expected to find a barren underwater volcanic landscape. Instead, they discovered a thriving biological community nearby. Dense clusters of unknown animals covered the basalt rocks. Large clams and pale crabs moved among rocky crevices. This observation stunned the entire global scientific community. No sunlight could reach this profound dark ocean depth. Textbooks previously stated all life required surface solar energy. This single expedition rewrote fundamental biological paradigms forever. Researchers immediately began analyzing this strange new deep ecosystem. They needed to understand the underlying chemical energy source. The ocean bottom temperature normally hovers near absolute freezing. Yet these vent waters registered significantly higher thermal temperatures. Life flourished precisely along these steep thermal gradient boundaries. Fact number 2 explains the vital process of chemosynthesis. Vent ecosystems do not rely on traditional plant photosynthesis. Microbes produce food using chemical energy from dissolved minerals. Hydrogen sulfide flows abundantly from the cracked ocean floor. This toxic gas kills most standard shallow marine animals. However, specialized bacteria process it into useful organic carbon. They oxidize the sulfide to produce internal cellular energy. These microbes form the absolute base of deep survival. They essentially replace green plants in this dark environment. Some bacteria float freely in the warm surrounding water. Others form thick white biological mats across the rocks. These bacterial mats provide food for grazing benthic invertebrates. Chemosynthesis yields less energy than traditional surface solar photosynthesis. Yet it sustains massive populations of deep-sea invertebrates. Scientists identified this unique metabolic pathway in the 80s. It proved life could exist independently of our star. This chemical foundation supports truly bizarre deep animal forms. The biomass concentration rivals shallow tropical coral reef systems. Fact number 3 focuses on the giant deep tube worm. Its scientific name is Riftia pachyptela in taxonomic records. These incredible worms grow up to 3 meters long. They possess absolutely no mouth or digestive tract system. Instead, they host symbiotic bacteria inside a specialized organ. This internal organ is called the traphosome by biologists. The worm absorbs hydrogen sulfide through its red plume. Hemoglobin in the blood gives the plume its bright color. This hemoglobin transports toxic sulfide safely to the bacteria. The microbes then produce organic nutrients for the worm. It represents a perfect biological partnership in the deep. Tube worms grow incredibly fast compared to other animals. Some individuals add nearly a meter of length annually. They build rigid white tubes from tough chitinous material. These tubes protect their soft bodies from hungry predators. Entire dense forests of tube worms dominate Pacific vents. Fact number 4 involves the extreme water temperatures found here. Hydrothermal fluid erupts from mineral chimneys known as black smokers. The water temperature can reach 400 degrees Celsius. This measurement equals roughly 750 degrees Fahrenheit. At surface sea level, this water would instantly boil away. However, extreme hydrostatic pressure prevents any boiling down here. The crushing pressure keeps the superheated fluid strictly liquid. Cold seawater constantly mixes with this scalding vent fluid. This creates steep temperature gradients across very short distances. An animal might experience freezing and boiling temperatures simultaneously. The black smoke consists of dark iron sulfide precipitates. These minerals solidify instantly upon hitting the cold ocean. They slowly build massive chimney structures over several years. Some chimneys reach heights of 18 stories before collapsing. Organisms must navigate these dangerous thermal zones very carefully. A minor shift in water currents can prove instantly fatal. Fact number 5 introduces the remarkable Pompeii worm species. Biologists consider it the most heat-tolerant complex animal. Its scientific classification is Alvinella pompeiana in marine literature. These worms attach their protective tubes directly to black smokers. The tail rests in water reaching 80 degrees Celsius. Meanwhile, its feathery head feeds in cooler surrounding water. The head experiences temperatures around 22 degrees Celsius. This creates a massive temperature gradient across its body. A thick layer of pale bacteria covers the worm completely. Scientists believe this bacterial fleece provides crucial thermal insulation. The microbes might also detoxify heavy metals from vents. Pompeii worms secrete special proteins to survive the extreme heat. These complex proteins remain stable at exceptionally high thermal limits. Researchers study them for potential industrial and medical applications. The worm constantly moves cold water through its tube. This behavioral adaptation helps regulate its internal body temperature. Fact number 6 highlights the unusual deep-sea yeti crab. Scientists discovered this pale crustacean in 2005. The expedition occurred near Easter Island in the Pacific Ocean. This crab lacks functional eyes due to total abyssal darkness. It features long pincers covered in dense pale bristles. These hair-like structures are technically known as setae. The bristles host large colonies of chemosynthetic filamentous bacteria. The yeti crab actively cultivates its own bacterial food. It waves its arms rhythmically through the warm vent fluid. This motion provides the bacteria with fresh chemical nutrients. The crab then uses specialized mouthparts to harvest microbes. It essentially operates as a deep-sea agricultural farmer. Their pale bodies stand out against the dark basaltic rocks. They cluster tightly around the warm mineral fluid seepages. The scientific community named the first species Kiwa hirsuta. Fact number 7 features the heavily armored scaly-foot snail. Researchers found them in the Indian Ocean in 2000. This snail utilizes iron from vent fluids for its shell. It incorporates iron sulfide minerals directly into its outer skeleton. No other known animal uses iron compounds in this manner. The shell consists of 3 distinct and highly durable layers. The outer layer features greigite, which is highly magnetic. The middle layer contains a squishy organic periostracum material. The inner layer consists of heavily calcified aragonite mineral. This composite armor perfectly deflects attacks from predatory crabs. The snail also has iron-coated scales on its foot. These metallic scales provide additional protection against environmental threats. Military engineers currently study this shell for advanced armor designs. The snail houses symbiotic bacteria in a large esophageal gland. It relies entirely on these internal microbes for daily nutrition. This metallic creature remains highly endangered due to deep mining. Fact number 8 examines the peculiar blind vent shrimp. The species Rimicaris exoculator dominates the mid-Atlantic ridge. They gather in swarms of thousands around black smokers. Adult shrimp completely lack normal stalked eyes for visual sight. Instead, they possess a specialized light-sensing dorsal organ. This organ sits directly beneath their transparent dorsal carapace. It detects faint infrared radiation emitted by hot vents. This thermal glow remains entirely invisible to human eyes. The shrimp use this organ to avoid boiling water. They scrape bacterial mats from the mineral chimney walls. Their modified mouthparts act like tiny efficient mineral scrapers. They also host bacteria inside their enlarged gill chambers. The shrimp constantly swim in tight circular feeding patterns. This movement maximizes their exposure to vital chemical nutrients. They must carefully balance between freezing and boiling zones. Their navigation relies completely on that unique thermal sensor. Fact number 9 concerns the temporary nature of hydrothermal vents. These dynamic ecosystems do not last for geological epochs. A typical vent might remain active for only a few decades. Tectonic shifts frequently alter the underground plumbing systems entirely. Mineral deposits eventually clog the narrow fluid escape channels. When the fluid stops flowing, the entire ecosystem collapses. The symbiotic bacteria immediately lose their vital chemical fuel. Without bacteria, the larger animals quickly starve to death. Scavengers eventually consume the decaying remains of the community. However, new vents constantly open along the tectonic ridges. Vent creatures produce millions of microscopic swimming larval offspring. Ocean currents carry these tiny larvae across vast distances. They drift blindly until they detect a new active vent. Scientists still debate how larvae locate these isolated habitats. Once settled, they rapidly grow to establish new colonies. This cycle ensures survival despite individual vent system failures. Fact number 10 connects vent creatures to space exploration. These resilient ecosystems completely changed our search for extraterrestrial life. Astrobiologists now look beyond planets in the habitable zone. Moons like Europa and Enceladus contain massive subsurface oceans. Thick layers of surface ice cover these alien oceans. No sunlight could ever penetrate those frozen planetary shells. However, tidal friction generates immense internal planetary core heat. Scientists strongly suspect hydrothermal vents exist on these moons. If terrestrial vents support life, alien vents might too. Chemical synthesis could easily power biological systems in space. Many researchers believe terrestrial life actually originated around vents. The primordial ocean provided perfect conditions for early chemistry. Deep-sea vents offer a protective cradle against surface impacts. Studying these creatures helps us understand our own origins. They represent a bridge between geology and biological evolution. Fact number 11. Giant tube worms lack a mouth and a stomach. These creatures are known scientifically as Riftia pachyptela. They grow up to nearly 3 meters in length. Their growth rate is incredibly fast for deep-sea animals. These tube worms bypass normal feeding methods entirely. They do not hunt or filter particles from water. Instead, they rely entirely on internal chemical factories. Their bodies absorb raw chemicals directly from the water. Hydrogen sulfide enters through their bright red plumes. This red color comes from complex hemoglobin molecules. Their blood binds both oxygen and toxic sulfide simultaneously. This dual binding prevents the sulfide from killing them. The chemicals are transported deep inside the worm's body. Researchers first dissected these worms in 1977. They found absolutely no digestive tract inside the specimens. This discovery challenged all existing rules of animal biology. Fact number 12. The secret to tube worm survival is the traphosome. This specialized organ fills most of the worm's body. It acts as a massive internal greenhouse for bacteria. Billions of symbiotic bacteria live inside this dark chamber. They make up half the total weight of the worm. The worm delivers hydrogen sulfide directly to these microbes. The bacteria then perform a process called chemosynthesis. They oxidize the sulfide to produce pure cellular energy. This energy is used to fix carbon dioxide into sugars. The worm absorbs these sugars to fuel its rapid growth. It is a perfect example of obligate mutualism. Neither organism can survive without the other biological partner. The bacteria get a safe home and steady chemicals. The worm receives an endless supply of organic food. This internal farming system is highly efficient and stable. Scientists estimate billions of bacteria occupy every single gram. Fact number 13. Yeti crabs farm their own food directly on their claws. These crustaceans were first discovered in 2005. They live along the Pacific Antarctic ridge vent systems. Their scientific name is known as Kiwa hirsuta. Their front claws are covered in dense, pale bristles. These bristles resemble the fur of a mythical yeti. These setae provide a massive surface area for bacteria. Chemosynthetic microbes grow thickly along these hairy arm structures. The crab waves its arms slowly over the thermal vents. This sweeping motion bathes the bacteria in vital chemicals. The movement ensures a steady flow of hydrogen sulfide. The bacteria multiply rapidly in these optimal chemical currents. When the bacterial crop is ready, the crab harvests it. It uses specialized mouthparts to scrape the fresh bacteria off. This external farming technique is formally called episymbiosis. The crabs live at depths of over 2,000 meters. Sometimes hundreds of crabs cover a single mineral chimney. Fact number 14. Not all vent creatures rely entirely on hydrogen sulfide gas. Deep-sea mussels often utilize dissolved methane gas instead. These deep-sea mussels belong to the genus known as Bathymodialus. They form massive beds around active hydrothermal vent zones. Methane seeps from the ocean floor through geological cracks. The mussels harbor methanotrophic bacteria in their thick gills. These specific microbes consume methane to produce metabolic energy. The process creates essential organic carbon for the host. Some mussel species host two different types of bacteria. One type processes methane while the other uses sulfide. This dual symbiosis provides a significant survival advantage. The mussels can adapt if one chemical source fluctuates. Having two energy pathways ensures a steady food supply. These dense mussel beds can stretch for dozens of meters. Researchers have measured their growth rings using isotopic analyses. Some deep-sea mussels live for over 20 long years. They attach firmly to the rocks using strong byssal threads. Fact number 15. The scalyfoot snail builds its protective shell using iron. This gastropod lives deep in the Indian Ocean thermal vents. Its scientific name is known as Chrysomalon squamiferarum. It was first discovered by researchers in 2001. The snail lives at depths of nearly 3 kilometers. The water here is highly acidic and extremely toxic. To survive, the snail incorporates iron sulfides into its armor. It is the only known animal to use iron natively. The outer layer of its shell contains greigite and pyrite. These iron compounds make the shell incredibly durable. The snail also has iron-plated scales covering its foot. These overlapping scales protect soft tissues from hungry predators. The iron makes the snail strictly magnetic in nature. Inside, the snail hosts a large esophageal gland. This gland contains the essential chemosynthetic bacteria for survival. The snail relies entirely on these microbes for daily nutrition. This evolutionary adaptation remains completely unique in the animal kingdom. Fact number 16. Pompeii worms survive extreme temperature gradients along the thermal vents. These polychaete worms live on the sides of active chimneys. Their scientific name is classified as Alvinella pompeiana. They construct thin papery tubes directly on the hot rock. The tail of the worm rests near the flowing fluid. Temperatures at the tail can reach 80 degrees Celsius. The worm's head extends into the cold surrounding seawater. The water at the head is only 20 degrees Celsius. The worm endures a 60-degree temperature difference across its length. No other complex animal survives such an extreme thermal gradient. Their backs are covered in a thick fleece of bacteria. These bacteria secrete special proteins to physically insulate the worm. The microbes act like a thermal blanket against the intense heat. They also process the toxic heavy metals from the vent emissions. Researchers discovered these heat-resistant worms in 1980. They named them after the volcanic destruction of ancient Pompeii. Fact number 17. Blind shrimp swarm the vents of the mid-Atlantic ridge. The dominant species is known as Rimicaris exoculator. They do not possess any traditional stalked eyes. They have a specialized light-sensing organ on their backs. This organ detects the faint infrared glow of the thermal vents. Thermal radiation helps them avoid boiling hot vent fluids. These shrimp gather in massive and dense swirling swarms. Scientists have counted 3,000 shrimp per square meter. They constantly scrape chimney walls for thick bacterial mats. They also farm bacteria inside their highly enlarged gill chambers. The shrimp swim vigorously to keep water flowing over their gills. This provides oxygen and sulfides to their internal bacterial crops. Their physical bodies are pale and mostly transparent in color. The swarms look like a blizzard of moving white snow. This specific field sits at a depth of 3,400 meters. They are the primary consumers of the vent's biological bacterial production. Fact number 18. Chemosynthetic symbiosis evolved independently many times across the ocean. Different animal groups discovered this survival strategy separately. Clams, tube worms, and snails all use this effective method. They form distinct partnerships with unique sulfur-oxidizing bacteria. This convergent evolution highlights the extreme efficiency of the system. Chemical energy is the only reliable fuel in a dark ocean. Animals had to adapt or face starvation in the abyss. The bacteria were already thriving in the hot vent fluids. Animals evolved specialized tissues to house these productive microbes. Some hosts inherit the bacteria directly from their parents. This process is widely known as vertical transmission in biology. Other animals acquire the bacteria from the surrounding ocean environment. This environmental acquisition happens mainly during their vulnerable larval stage. The tiny larvae settle on a vent and absorb local microbes. The host immune system must carefully tolerate these foreign bacterial cells. It suppresses normal defenses to allow the helpful bacteria to multiply. The resulting partnerships transform barren rocks into vibrant biological oases. Fact number 19. Vent octopuses hunt actively in the warm waters near the chimneys. Vulcanoctopus hydrothermalis is a small and unique cephalopod species. It was first observed alive near the East Pacific Rise. This species of octopus lacks defensive ink sacs completely. In total darkness, spraying ink provides no defensive advantage. Their eyes are very small and likely completely non-functional. They rely entirely on touch and chemical sensors to hunt prey. Their arms are highly sensitive to tiny vibrations in the water. They crawl over the mineral formation searching for small crustaceans. They primarily prey on amphipods and small vent crabs. They do not have a floating planktonic larval stage. Females lay large eggs directly on the warm basaltic rocks. Warm vent fluid dramatically accelerates the entire egg incubation period. Deep sea cold usually makes octopus eggs take several years to hatch. The vent heat safely reduces this time to just a few months. These octopuses stay strictly within the naturally heated vent boundaries. They represent the apex predators of this highly specialized microhabitat. Fact number 20. Eelpouts are the dominant fish in many active hydrothermal fields. These slender fish belong to the family known as Zoarcidae. They resemble a unique cross between an eel and a cod. They grow to about 30 centimeters in body length. These eelpouts are generally slow-moving ocean bottom dwellers. They weave slowly through the dense clusters of giant tube worms. Their smooth skin is pale white or slightly pink. They possess a remarkably high tolerance for toxic heavy metals. Vent fluids contain lethal amounts of copper and zinc. Eel pouts have specialized liver enzymes to safely process these toxins. They prevent dissolved metals from destroying their nervous systems. These fish are opportunistic carnivores within the vent ecosystem. They feed on vent snails, small crabs, and tiny amphipods. Sometimes they bite off the exposed plumes of tube worms. The tube worms quickly retract into their hard protective shells. Eel pouts are highly territorial around specific warm vent fluid openings. Scientists often see them resting directly on the warm mineral rocks. They are perfectly adapted to the harsh surrounding chemical environment. Their steady presence indicates a highly stable hydrothermal vent community. Fact number 21. Giant tube worms exhibit truly unprecedented biological growth rates. These organisms are scientifically known as Rifschapachyptila. They lack a mouth, gut, and digestive system. Instead, they rely entirely on internal symbiotic bacteria. These microbes convert toxic hydrogen sulfide into food. This unique biological process is known as chemosynthesis. It fuels rapid physical expansion in the worms. Researchers measured their growth in the Pacific Ocean. A single tube worm can grow 85 centimeters annually. This makes them the fastest growing marine invertebrates. Their protective tubes are made of tough chitin. Tube worms can reach 3 meters in total length. They often form dense thickets near hydrothermal vents. These thickets provide shelter for smaller vent organisms. Scientists first documented this growth in 1999. The discovery challenged previous models of deep-sea biology. Cold deep-sea environments usually dictate very slow metabolisms. Vent ecosystems completely break these standard biological rules. The endless chemical energy supply enables this anomaly. Fact number 22. The Pompeii worm survives extreme thermal temperature gradients. Its scientific name is known as Alvinella pompeiana. French marine biologists discovered it in 1980. These polychaete worms build papery tubes on vent chimneys. The tail end rests inside the superheated tube. Water temperatures there frequently reach 80 degrees Celsius. The head extends out into the surrounding ocean. This ambient water is a cool 22 degrees. The worm endures a 60-degree temperature difference continuously. No other complex animal tolerates such thermal extremes. A fleece of symbiotic bacteria covers its back. These microbes secrete special heat-resistant proteins for protection. These proteins act as a microscopic thermal blanket. The bacteria also process heavy metals from the water. This prevents toxic buildup within the worm's tissues. Researchers study these enzymes for industrial applications today. The Pompeii worm demonstrates remarkable physiological thermal adaptation. Its survival mechanisms remain a subject of active study. Fact number 23. Vent crabs undergo radical visual transformations during development. They belong to the biological family called Bythagriidae. Larval crabs hatch with fully functional, image-forming eyes. They spend their early life stages in shallower waters. Ocean currents transport them across vast underwater distances. They eventually settle near active hydrothermal vent fields. As they mature, their eyes completely degenerate away. Adult crabs possess only naked retinal sensory patches. These remnants cannot form visual images at all. They only detect faint thermal radiation from vents. The crabs navigate using highly sensitive chemical receptors. Fine hairs on their antennae detect dissolved sulfides. This physical adaptation saves valuable metabolic energy resources. Maintaining complex functioning eyes is very biologically expensive. In complete absence of sunlight, vision becomes entirely useless. The crabs scavenge dead organisms around the mineral chimneys. Scientists first described these unique crabs in 1980. Their sensory shift illustrates perfect environmental biological adaptation. Fact number 24. The Yeti crab actively farms its own bacterial food. Scientists discovered this crustacean in the year 2005. The finding occurred deep south of Easter Island. Its scientific designation is known as Kiwa hirsuta. The crab features pale pigmentation and lacks functional eyes. Its most striking physical feature is its hairy claws. These dense white bristles are scientifically called setae. The setae provide a massive surface area for growth. Chemosynthetic bacteria grow densely on these fine outer hairs. The crab constantly waves its arms over vent fluids. This motion bathes the bacteria in vital chemical nutrients. The microbes absorb hydrogen sulfide and dissolved oxygen. They multiply rapidly in the warm hydrothermal vent currents. The crab then uses modified mouthparts to harvest them. It literally scrapes the bacteria off its own arms. This highly specialized farming behavior ensures constant reliable nutrition. It relies entirely on its personal mobile bacterial garden. This mutualistic relationship perfectly sustains both crab and bacteria. Fact number 25. The scalyfoot snail constructs its shell using solid iron. Researchers found it living deep in the Indian Ocean. The discovery took place in the year 2001. Its scientific name is known as Chrysomalon squamiferarum. It lives near the Kai-Ray hydrothermal vent field system. The water here contains high concentrations of dissolved iron. The snail incorporates iron sulfides directly into its skeleton. It forms a unique tri-layered composite metallic armor. The outer layer consists of iron-based graphite magnetic nanoparticles. This external shell material is naturally and strongly magnetic. The middle layer is a soft, shock-absorbing organic material. The inner layer is made of heavily calcified aragonite. This complex layered armor protects against aggressive predatory crabs. The snail's muscular foot also features iron-plated protective scales. No other known animal utilizes iron in this exact manner. Symbiotic bacteria live inside its remarkably large esophageal gland. They provide all necessary organic carbon for the snail. The snail never actually has to eat solid food. Its iron armor remains a true marvel of biological engineering. Fact number 26. Epsilon proteobacteria totally dominate the microbial life at hydrothermal vents. These single-celled organisms act as essential primary producers. They form the absolute foundational base of the food web. Sunlight never reaches these isolated deep ocean benthic habitats. Photosynthesis is completely and physically impossible down here. These bacteria utilize chemical energy instead of solar power. They oxidize hydrogen sulfide emerging from the Earth's crust. This chemical reaction releases highly usable internal metabolic energy. The bacteria use this energy to fix dissolved carbon dioxide. They produce organic molecules essential for all vent life. These microbes form thick white biological mats on the seafloor. Some mats reach several centimeters in total physical thickness. Grazing animals feed directly upon these dense bacterial carpets. Genetic sequencing revealed their incredible biological diversity in 2000. Different strains specialize in processing completely different mineral compounds. Some prefer iron, while others process dissolved methane gas. Their metabolic flexibility stabilizes the entire complex vent ecosystem. Life here depends entirely upon their continuous chemical processing. Fact number 27. Vent shrimp possess highly specialized thermal light sensory receptors. The species Rimicaris exoculator lives on the mid-Atlantic ridge. They form massive swarms around active superheated black smokers. A single square meter can hold 2,000 shrimp. These crustaceans completely lack traditional stalked eyes for vision. Instead, they have a large V-shaped organ on their back. This unique dorsal structure contains specific light-sensitive biological pigments. It cannot form visual images of the surrounding environment. It only detects very faint infrared radiation from vents. Black smokers emit very weak and invisible thermal light. The water temperature exceeds 350 degrees Celsius. The shrimp must graze on bacteria near the active vents. Getting too close means instant death by thermal boiling. The dorsal eye spots act as a crucial warning system. They help the shrimp maintain a perfectly safe distance. Scientists identified this unique sensory organ in 1989. It represents a precise physical adaptation to a lethal environment. The shrimp perfectly balance starvation against immediate thermal incineration. Fact number 28. Deep-sea mussels host two different types of symbiotic bacteria. They belong to the biological genus known as Bathymodiolus. Scientists discovered them living along the deep mid-Atlantic ridge. The official year of discovery was 1985. Most vent animals host only one single bacterial partner. These mussels developed a highly successful dual symbiotic strategy. They harbor both thiotropic and methanotrophic bacteria simultaneously. The thiotropic bacteria actively process toxic hydrogen sulfide gas. The methanotrophic bacteria consume dissolved methane gas from vents. Both microbes live securely within the gills of the mussel. The mussel absorbs the organic nutritional compounds they produce. This dual system provides a distinct and powerful survival advantage. Vent fluid chemical composition changes frequently over geological time. Sometimes sulfide levels drop while methane levels rapidly rise. The mussel can rely on whichever bacteria has available fuel. This metabolic flexibility ensures a perfectly constant food supply. The mussels form massive biological beds across the rocky seafloor. They attach securely using incredibly strong biological byssal threads. Their evolutionary strategy guarantees long-term ecological success and survival. Fact number 29. The vent octopus is a highly specialized deep-sea cephalopod. Its scientific classification is known as Vulcanoctopus hydrothermalis. Researchers found it living near the active East Pacific Rise. The official discovery occurred in the year 1998. This octopus displays distinct physical adaptations to its extreme habitat. It is completely ghostly white in its overall appearance. It lacks the chromatophores normally used for skin color changing. Visual camouflage is entirely unnecessary in total oceanic darkness. The animal also lacks a functioning defensive ink sac. Defensive ink clouds are completely useless without ambient visible light. Its eyes are functional but remain very poorly developed. It navigates primarily by physical touch and sensitive chemical sensing. It uses its long arms to probe the rocky crevices. The octopus hunts small vent crabs and tiny crustacean amphipods. It moves very slowly to conserve precious internal metabolic energy. The surrounding deep-sea water pressure is absolutely immense here. The vent fluid provides localized thermal warmth for the animal. It rarely strays far from the active mineral chimney structures. This species perfectly demonstrates regressive evolution in extreme permanent darkness. Fact number 30. Zooarcid fish are the dominant top predators of vent ecosystems. They are commonly known to marine biologists as eelpouts. These elongated fish resemble pale, sluggish, and slow-moving eels. They measure about 60 centimeters in their total body length. They live permanently among the dense and crowded tubeworm thickets. Their skin is very thick and completely lacks any scales. This adaptation protects them from the highly toxic vent fluids. Eelpouts have an incredibly slow and efficient internal metabolic rate. They spend most of their time simply resting on rocks. They silently ambush prey rather than actively hunting them down. Their diet consists mainly of vent crabs and small amphipods. Occasionally, they nip the exposed red plumes of giant tubeworms. They easily tolerate extremely high levels of dissolved heavy metals. Their blood contains specialized proteins to handle environmental chemical toxicity. Scientists frequently observe them during deep-sea robotic submersible dives. They are solitary creatures and remain highly territorial over space. Their slow lifestyle ensures survival in a very harsh landscape. They represent the absolute apex of the chemosynthetic food chain. Fact number 31 explores the giant tubeworm anatomy. Giant tubeworms lack both a mouth and a stomach. These creatures are scientifically classified as Riftia pachyptela. They dominate the hydrothermal vents of the Pacific Ocean. A mature tubeworm can reach 3 meters long. Their growth rate is incredibly fast for marine life. They can grow up to 80 centimeters every year. This makes them the fastest growing marine invertebrates known. Their stark white tubes consist of very tough chitin. Bright red plumes protrude from the top of these tubes. Hemoglobin gives these delicate plumes their striking crimson color. This hemoglobin binds tightly with oxygen and hydrogen sulfide. The worm transports these chemicals deep into its body. It feeds a massive colony of internal symbiotic bacteria. These microbes convert toxic chemicals into usable organic carbon. The host worm relies entirely on this chemical factory. Without these microscopic partners, the giant worms would starve. They thrive in water around 20 degrees Celsius. Their dense clusters form artificial reefs on the seafloor. Fact number 32 examines the fascinating yeti crab species. The yeti crab literally farms food on its own body. Scientists discovered this unusual crustacean in 2005. It was found deep south of Easter Island. The crab lives 2,200 meters underwater. Its scientific designation is known as Kiwa hirsuta. The pale deep-sea creature lacks functional eyes entirely. Thick pale bristles cover its long-reaching front claws. These fine bristles are technically referred to as setae. They act as a specialized farming surface for bacteria. The crab waves its arms near active vent fluids. This movement bathes the bacteria in essential chemical nutrients. Methane and hydrogen sulfide wash over the dense bristles. The microbial colonies multiply rapidly in this chemical flow. The crab uses specialized mouthparts to harvest the microbes. It systematically scrapes the fresh bacteria off its arms. This highly unique behavior is called episymbiotic bacterial farming. The Yeti crab is perfectly adapted to its toxic home. The entire species relies on this self-contained food source. Fact number 33 details the armored scalefoot snail. This unique snail builds its shell with solid iron. This mollusk lives exclusively in Indian Ocean vent fields. It resides nearly 3,000 meters below the waves. The water pressure here is roughly 300 atmospheres. Its scientific name is classified as Chrysomalon squamiferum. The snail incorporates iron sulfide into its outer shell. No other known animal uses iron in this exact manner. The shell consists of 3 distinct protective armor layers. The outermost layer contains gragite and pyrite metallic minerals. These iron compounds make the snail naturally highly magnetic. A thick middle layer absorbs the shock of predatory attacks. The inner layer consists of heavily calcified structural material. Iron-plated scales also protect the fleshy foot of the snail. These metallic scales overlap heavily like medieval chainmail armor. The iron comes directly from the hydrothermal vent fluids. This snail also relies on a large internal bacterial gland. The bacteria provide all necessary nutrition through chemical synthesis. The heavy snail barely needs to move to survive. Fact number 34 introduces the heat-resistant Pompeii worm. The Pompeii worm survives extreme temperature gradients with ease. It is named Alvinella pompeiana by marine biology experts. This polychaete worm lives attached to actively venting chimneys. Its tail end rests inside a thin protective tube. The water inside this tube reaches 80 degrees Celsius. Its head protrudes into much cooler surrounding ocean water. The ambient seawater is only 22 degrees Celsius. This creates a massive temperature drop across its small body. A 60-degree difference exists over just 10 centimeters. No other complex animal tolerates such extreme thermal gradients. A fleece-like covering of bacteria coats the worm's back. These microbes secrete special proteins to insulate the worm. The bacterial blanket protects the host from heavy metals. It also shields the worm from severe thermal damage. The worm feeds these microbes by producing sticky mucus. In return, the bacteria detoxify the deadly vent fluids. Scientists study this worm to understand heat-resistant biological enzymes. The resilient species was first documented in 1980. Fact number 35 explains the vision of vent shrimp. Vent shrimp possess a highly unique thermal sensing organ. The species Rimicaris exoculator dominates mid-Atlantic ridge vent fields. These shrimp form massive swarms around active black smokers. Populations can reach 3,000 individuals per square meter. Adult shrimp lack normal image-forming eyes entirely upon maturity. Instead, they have a specialized dorsal organ on their back. This organ contains highly sensitive light-detecting biological pigments. It cannot see shapes or physical outlines of objects. It detects faint infrared radiation emitted by hot vents. The vent water exits at 350 degrees Celsius. This extreme heat produces a very dim thermal glow. The shrimp use this glow to navigate the vent field. They must stay close enough to feed on bacteria. However, they must avoid being boiled by the superheated water. The thermal eye helps them maintain a safe distance. Juvenile shrimp actually hatch with normal stalked vision eyes. These eyes degrade as they mature and locate a vent. Fact number 36 reveals the secret of the traphosome. Tube worms house bacteria in a highly specialized organ. This massive internal structure is called the biological traphosome. It takes up more than half of the worm's body. The traphosome tissue is incredibly soft and dark green. It contains billions of symbiotic bacteria per gram of tissue. These microbes are strictly anaerobic and require no sunlight. The host worm's blood vessels wrap tightly around this organ. Hemoglobin delivers sulfides and oxygen directly to the bacteria. The microbes oxidize the toxic hydrogen sulfide for energy. This specific chemical reaction produces pure biological ATP molecules. The bacteria use ATP to fix dissolved carbon dioxide. They synthesize complex carbohydrates and essential marine amino acids. These nutrients leak directly into the worm's primary bloodstream. The worm occasionally digests some of the bacteria directly. This provides a continuous supply of vital structural proteins. The traphosome has no connection to the outside environment. It is a completely closed and isolated biological system. This evolutionary adaptation is a marvel of deep-sea biology. Fact number 37 explains the mechanics of deep chemosynthesis. Chemosynthesis completely replaces photosynthesis in the deep ocean ecosystem. Sunlight never penetrates these abyssal hydrothermal vent environments. Surface plants use solar energy to build organic matter. Vent microbes rely entirely on geothermal chemical energy instead. Hydrogen sulfide is the primary fuel for this process. This gas smells strongly of rotting eggs at the surface. It is highly toxic to most terrestrial life forms. Vent bacteria possess special enzymes to safely process it. They strip electrons from the dissolved toxic sulfide molecules. This electron transfer generates a very small electrical charge. The charge powers the creation of simple sugar molecules. Carbon dioxide and water are consumed during this reaction. Sulfur compounds are released as a completely harmless waste product. This chemical pathway sustains the entire hydrothermal vent food web. It supports a biomass density matching lush tropical rainforests. Scientists first confirmed this biological process in 1977. It completely redefined our fundamental definition of a habitable zone. Life can flourish without a single photon of solar sunlight. Fact number 38 looks at the adaptable vent mussels. Deep-sea mussels utilize two entirely different chemical fuels. They belong to the scientific genus known as Bathymodiolus. These bivalves form dense beds around warm fluid seeps. A single bed can contain hundreds of thousands of mussels. They host multiple types of symbiotic bacteria in their gills. One bacterial strain specializes in processing toxic hydrogen sulfide. Another distinct strain consumes dissolved methane gas for energy. Methane bubbling from the seafloor provides abundant organic carbon. This dual symbiosis gives the mussels a massive survival advantage. They can thrive in a wider variety of vent conditions. If sulfide levels drop, they rely on methane consumers. If methane depletes, the sulfide processing bacteria take over. These muscles still retain a fully functional internal digestive tract. They can filter feed on free-floating ocean microbes easily. This flexibility allows them to survive vent fluid fluctuations. Some large mussel beds persist for several long decades. A 10-centimeter mussel might be over 20 years old. Fact number 39 identifies the apex predators of vents. Eelpouts are the apex predators of hydrothermal vent fields. These specialized fish belong to the scientific family Zoarcidae. They measure about 60 centimeters in total body length. Their bodies are long, pale, and incredibly flexible underwater. They swim slowly among the dense tube worm clusters. These predators hunt blind crabs and small grazing vent shrimp. They also occasionally nip off pieces of exposed tube worms. Eelpouts have specialized gills to survive the highly toxic water. They can tolerate extremely low levels of dissolved ocean oxygen. Their slow metabolism helps them conserve precious bodily energy. They spend most of their time resting on the rocks. This lethargic behavior minimizes their constant need for food. Their livers isolate and safely store toxic copper and zinc. Few other fish species can survive in this extreme environment. Eelpouts rarely leave the immediate vicinity of the active vents. The surrounding freezing water acts as an invisible biological barrier. They are permanent residents of these isolated deep thermal islands. Fact number 40 explores the lifespan of vent ecosystems. Hydrothermal vent ecosystems have a relatively short geological lifespan. A typical vent field might remain active for 50 years. Tectonic plates constantly shift beneath the heavy ocean floor. Earthquakes frequently alter the subsurface plumbing of the crust. A sudden seismic event can instantly reroute the hot fluids. Fact number 41. The Pompeii worm thrives in extreme thermal gradients. French researchers discovered this species in 1980. The scientific name for this worm is Alvinella pompeiana. This worm builds tubes directly on active chimneys. Its tail rests in 80 degrees Celsius vent water. Its head protrudes into 22-degree cold ocean currents. This temperature difference spans only 10 centimeters distance. A fleece-like coat of bacteria covers its back. These specialized microbes provide vital thermal insulation layers. They also process toxic heavy metals from vents. The worm secretes special mucus to feed them. Scientists study their heat-resistant enzymes for industrial use. These proteins remain stable at near boiling temperatures. No other complex animal tolerates such constant heat. The symbiotic relationship ensures mutual survival down here. Their physical tubes measure roughly 13 centimeters long. The internal tube temperature fluctuates very rapidly here. It can change by 60 degrees in seconds. The circulatory system of the worm dissipates heat. Specialized hemoglobin binds oxygen in this hot environment. This blood protein prevents cellular damage from heat. Fact number 42. Giant tube worms grow incredibly fast near vents. They can reach lengths of up to 3 meters. Researchers measured their growth rates in the Pacific. Some individuals grow 1.5 meters yearly. This makes them the fastest growing marine invertebrates. These unique animals completely lack a mouth or stomach. They rely entirely on internal chemosynthetic bacteria populations. A specialized organ called the traphosome holds them. This internal organ makes up half their body weight. Billions of microbes live inside this dark tissue. The worm absorbs hydrogen sulfide through its plume. Red blood carries this toxic gas to the bacteria. The microbes convert it into organic carbon molecules. These carbon molecules feed the host worm directly. Colonies of these worms establish themselves very quickly. They colonize newly formed vents within 2 short years. Their rapid life cycle suits the unstable environment. A hydrothermal vent may shut down at any time. Fast growth ensures reproduction before the vent dies. Fact number 43. The scalyfoot gastropod wears armor made of iron. Marine biologists found this snail in 2001. It lives exclusively deep in the Indian Ocean. The habitat depth exceeds 2,400 meters. Its foot features hundreds of hard metallic scales. These overlapping protective scales contain iron sulfide minerals. Gragite and pyrite make up the hard outer layer. This is the only known animal utilizing gragite. The gragite actually makes the snail slightly magnetic. These minerals precipitate from the surrounding hot vent fluid. The snail controls this unique mineralization process biologically. This armor protects against predatory crabs and snails. The shell also features 3 distinct structural layers. A thick organic layer absorbs mechanical shock effectively. The snail houses symbiotic bacteria in its esophagus. An enlarged esophageal gland acts as a bioreactor. The circulatory system provides oxygen to these microbes. The heart makes up 4% of its volume. This proportion is relatively massive for a marine snail. The metallic scales might also excrete toxic waste. Fact number 44. The Yeti crab farms its own bacterial food supply. Scientists discovered this crustacean in 2005. It lives exclusively along the dark Pacific Antarctic ridge. The depth measures 2,200 meters. The scientific name for this crab is Kiwa hirsuta. The crab measures roughly 15 centimeters in length. Dense pale setae cover its long front claws. These hair-like structures trap floating filamentous chemosynthetic bacteria. The crab waves its claws in the vent fluids. This rhythmic motion washes nutrients over the bacteria. It ensures the microbes receive constant hydrogen sulfide. The crab later harvests these growing bacterial colonies. Specialized comb-like mouthparts scrape the microbes off directly. It consumes the harvested bacteria for daily sustenance. These crabs gather in extremely dense physical aggregations. Researchers counted 600 individuals per square meter. They stack on top of each other constantly. The water temperature dictates their exact physical positioning. They stay just outside the lethal boiling zones. Their lack of functional eye suits this dark environment. Fact number 45. Deep vent shrimp navigate using invisible thermal radiation. The species Rimicaris exoculator dominates the mid-Atlantic ridge vents. These shrimp lack typical eye stalks and normal lenses. Instead, they possess a unique dorsal sensory organ. This organ sits just beneath their transparent carapace. It contains highly modified and light-sensitive sensory cells. These cells detect faint infrared emissions from vents. Active black smoker chimneys emit weak black body radiation. The shrimp see this thermal glow in total darkness. This vision prevents them from swimming into boiling water. It acts as a crucial thermal warning system. The shrimp swarm the chimneys in massive numbers. Densities reach 3,000 individuals per square meter. They graze on bacterial mats covering the hot rocks. They also host bacteria inside their gill chambers. Minerals constantly deposit on their outer protective shells. The shrimp must molt frequently to shed these minerals. They shed their exoskeletons every 10 to 15 days. Their visual pigment relies on a specialized rhodopsin. This pigment absorbs light at much longer wavelengths. Fact number 46. Specific bacteria drive the entire hydrothermal vent ecosystem. The epsilon proteobacteria dominate many deep-sea hydrothermal vent environments. They act as the primary biological producers here. These microbes oxidize hydrogen sulfide for chemical energy. They use this chemical energy to fix carbon dioxide. This biological process is called dark carbon fixation. It occurs entirely without any solar energy input. The bacteria form thick white mats on surrounding rocks. These microbial mats can be several centimeters thick. They grow optimally at temperatures around 20 degrees Celsius. Some strains reproduce rapidly in oxygen-poor water zones. They bridge the gap between geology and biology. Chemical energy from the earth becomes living tissue. Different bacterial strains specialize in different chemical gradients. Some prefer oxidizing iron instead of using sulfur. Others utilize hydrogen gas directly for their daily metabolism. Deep ocean viruses frequently infect these dense bacterial populations. This viral activity regulates the overall microbial density. It releases stored nutrients back into the local water. This microbial loop sustains the smaller vent organisms. Fact number 47. The deep-sea mussels host multiple types of symbionts. The genus Bathymodialus thrives at various vent sites. These bivalves utilize a dual-energy harvesting survival strategy. Their gills contain two distinct bacterial populations inside. One type oxidizes hydrogen sulfide for cellular energy. The other type consumes dissolved methane gas directly. This metabolic flexibility provides a massive survival advantage. Vent fluid chemical composition changes frequently over time. If sulfide levels drop, methane bacteria compensate perfectly. The mussels can also filter feed from the water. They possess a fully functional internal digestive tract. This sets them apart from the giant tube worms. These mussels form enormous beds near vent peripheries. The dense beds stabilize the loose rocky substrate. They create safe habitats for smaller worms and crustaceans. A single vent mussel can live for 20 years. They grow up to 20 centimeters in total length. Their shells are usually thin and very brittle. Calcium carbonate dissolves easily at these extreme high pressures. A specialized organic periostracum protects their fragile shells. Fact number 48. Eel pouts function as apex predators at many vents. These specialized fish belong to the family Zoarcidae. They measure about 30 centimeters in total length. Their bodies are pale and completely lack typical scales. They swim with a slow and continuous undulating motion. These fish maintain a very sluggish internal metabolism. They silently ambush their prey among the tube worms. Their daily diet consists mainly of shrimp and crabs. They also consume exposed parts of giant tube worms. Eel pouts tolerate high concentrations of toxic heavy metals. Their livers process and isolate these dangerous chemical compounds. They rarely leave the immediate hydrothermal vent area. The surrounding deep ocean water is simply too cold. Vent temperatures keep their metabolic enzymes functioning properly. They lay small clusters of fertile eggs on rocks. The fragile eggs take several months to fully hatch. Fish populations remain small compared to local invertebrates. A single vent might host only 20 adult eelpouts. They represent the absolute top of this chemosynthetic food chain. Their presence indicates a mature and highly stable ecosystem. Fact number 49. Vent life depends entirely on sharp chemical gradients. Superheated fluid exits the chimney at high velocity. This fluid easily reaches 350 degrees Celsius. It contains absolutely no oxygen and features high acidity. The surrounding seawater sits at just 2 degrees Celsius. It is highly oxygenated and slightly alkaline in nature. These two water masses mix at the chimney boundary. The critical mixing zone spans only a few centimeters. Organisms must position themselves precisely within this narrow zone. They need dissolved oxygen from the cold surrounding seawater. They also need chemical sulfides from the hot fluid. Moving 1 centimeter can mean instantly freezing or boiling. Chimney structures grow as dissolved minerals precipitate out. Iron and zinc sulfides form the rigid outer walls. These highly porous walls allow fluid to seep through. Bacteria colonize the tiny pores hidden inside the rock. The chemical gradient drives electron transport in cellular membranes. This microscopic electrical current powers biological carbon fixation processes. Life exists exactly on this narrow thermodynamic dividing line. The physical environment dictates every biological adaptation found here. Fact number 50. Hydrothermal vent fields have relatively short geological lifespans. Geological forces constantly reshape the active ocean floor. Earthquakes frequently alter the complex underground plumbing systems. Magma chambers slowly cool down over several decades. Mineral deposits eventually clog the active chimney vents. A thriving ecosystem can die completely within a year. The steady flow of hydrogen sulfide stops completely. Without chemical energy, the primary bacteria perish very quickly. Fact number 51. The blind vent shrimp lacks traditional image-forming eyes. This species is formally known as Rimicaris exoculator. Instead of normal eyes, it possesses a specialized dorsal organ. This organ sits just beneath its transparent carapace. The internal structure contains highly sensitive light-detecting pigments. These pigments are called rhodopsins by marine biologists. The shrimp uses this organ to detect faint thermal radiation. Hydrothermal vents emit a very dim, continuous glow. This glow is completely invisible to the human eye. The shrimp senses this infrared light to navigate safely. It must stay close to the warm vent fluid. However, it must also avoid getting boiled alive. The temperature gradient changes drastically within mere millimeters. By sensing the faint light, the shrimp finds safety. It grazes on bacterial mats covering the mineral chimneys. Thousands of these shrimp swarm a single vent structure. They form dense, moving carpets over the rock surface. Scientists first discovered this unique visual system in 1989. The finding proved that deep ocean vents emit visible light. Fact number 52. The Pompeii worm survives extreme and shifting temperature gradients. Its scientific name is Alvinella pompejana in biological taxonomy. This polychaete worm builds papery tubes on vent chimneys. The tail end of the worm rests inside the tube. Fluid inside this tube can reach 80 degrees Celsius. This measurement equals 176 degrees Fahrenheit. The head of the worm extends into the surrounding seawater. This ocean water remains at a frigid 22 degrees Celsius. The worm tolerates a temperature difference of nearly 60 degrees. It sustains this gradient across its short body length. No other complex animal can survive such continuous heat. The worm relies on a thick coat of symbiotic bacteria. This unique bacterial fleece covers its entire back completely. The bacteria act as a biological thermal shield for survival. They secrete special proteins to protect the worm from heat. The worm also feeds on these same protective microbes. Researchers first identified the Pompeii worm in 1980. Its remarkable heat tolerance remains a subject of intense study. Fact number 53. The scalyfoot snail builds a strong shell of iron sulfide. This unique gastropod lives deep within the Indian Ocean. Researchers first discovered it in the year 2001. The snail inhabits the remote Kairai hydrothermal vent field. Its foot is covered in thick, overlapping mineralized scales. These sturdy scales contain minerals called gragite and pyrite. Gragite is a highly magnetic and durable iron compound. This specific mineral makes the snail naturally magnetic. The iron armor provides defense against predatory vent crabs. The shell itself consists of 3 highly distinct layers. The tough outer layer is made of solid iron sulfides. The middle layer is a spongy organic material called periostracum. The inner layer consists of heavily calcified aragonite minerals. This composite structure absorbs powerful physical impacts very effectively. Military engineers have studied this shell for advanced armor design. The adult snail does not eat any solid food. It relies entirely on a large internal esophageal gland. This specific gland houses millions of symbiotic chemosynthetic bacteria. The bacteria produce all the necessary nutrients for the snail. The host simply absorbs the resulting metabolic byproducts directly. Fact number 54. The Yeti crab actively farms its own bacterial food supply. Scientists discovered this unusual crustacean in 2005. It lives exclusively along the distant Pacific-Antarctic ridge. The crab measures about 15 centimeters in total length. Its most striking physical feature is its hairy white claws. Dense pale setae cover its long and powerful arms. These hair-like structures provide a vast surface area for growth. Chemosynthetic bacteria grow abundantly on these specialized arm setae. The crab holds its claws directly over the warm vent fluid. This action exposes the bacteria to dissolved hydrogen sulfide. The toxic hydrogen sulfide fuels the rapid bacterial growth. The crab then uses its highly specialized mouth parts. It carefully scrapes the bacteria off its own hairy arms. This agricultural farming technique provides a constant food supply. The adult Yeti crab is completely and permanently blind. It lacks even the most basic vestigial eye structures. It navigates the rocky terrain using sensitive chemical sensors. These sensors detect minute changes in the local water chemistry. The crab avoids toxic vent fluids through precise chemoreception. This unique species represents an entirely new crustacean family. Fact number 55. Vent mussels harbor multiple types of vital symbiotic bacteria. The genus Bathymodiolus dominates many deep hydrothermal vent ecosystems. These bivalves attach to rocks using very strong byssal threads. They form massive living beds spanning several square meters. Unlike most vent creatures, they possess a dual symbiont system. Their gills contain both sulfur-oxidizing and methane-oxidizing bacteria. This dual partnership provides a massive biological survival advantage. The mussels can utilize hydrogen sulfide from the active vents. They can also consume methane bubbling from the cracked seafloor. If one chemical source depletes, they simply rely on the other. The bacteria live intracellularly within the specialized gill tissues. The mussels absorb the organic molecules produced by the microbes. These adaptable bivalves still retain a fully functional digestive tract. They can filter feed on falling marine snow if necessary. This flexibility allows them to survive rapidly changing vent conditions. Vent mussels grow much faster than shallow coastal mussels. Some specific species reach 20 centimeters in just 10 years. They represent a highly adaptable and successful deep ocean species. Fact number 56. Eelpouts serve as efficient apex predators in vent ecosystems. These deep-sea fish belong to the biological family Zoarcidae. They possess elongated, slender bodies closely resembling true eels. Their thick skin lacks scales and appears pale or pinkish. Eelpouts swim sluggishly among the dense biological vent communities. They typically measure up to 40 centimeters in total length. These fish do not rely on internal chemosynthetic bacteria. They are active marine carnivores hunting for fresh meat. Their diet consists mainly of vent shrimp and small crabs. They also consume various polychaete worms living near the chimneys. Eelpouts possess highly specialized hemoglobin within their bloodstream. This hemoglobin functions efficiently in extremely low oxygen environments. The surrounding vent water contains very little dissolved oxygen. The fish can remain nearly motionless for many consecutive hours. This behavior conserves vital energy while waiting for prey to pass. They ambush small crustaceans wandering too far from safety. Scientists frequently observe eelpouts resting directly on mineral chimneys. They tolerate dangerously high levels of toxic heavy metals. Their specialized livers process and isolate these dangerous vent toxins. Fact number 57. Osedax worms consume massive whale skeletons near hydrothermal vents. These unique organisms are often called deep-sea zombie worms. They lack a mouth, a stomach, and a digestive tract. They settle on fallen whale carcasses resting on the seafloor. Sometimes these large carcasses land near active hydrothermal vent fields. The worms secrete powerful biological acids from their root systems. These acids dissolve the dense calcium phosphate of the bones. The roots penetrate deep into the rich skeletal marrow. Inside the roots, symbiotic bacteria process the extracted bone lipids. The bacteria convert the complex fats into usable organic nutrients. The worms absorb these nutrients directly into their own tissues. Only female Osedax worms grow to easily visible macroscopic sizes. The males remain completely microscopic throughout their entire lives. Dozens of dwarf males live permanently inside the female body. Their sole biological purpose is to fertilize the female eggs. Scientists first discovered these unusual Ozdax worms in 2002. They form temporary ecosystems bridging the physical gaps between vents. Fact number 58. The vent octopus is a highly rare deep-sea cephalopod. Its formal scientific name is Vulcanoctopus hydrothermalus in taxonomic records. Researchers first documented this unique species in 1998. It lives exclusively around East Pacific rise hydrothermal vent fields. This small octopus possesses a pale, nearly translucent muscular body. It lacks internal ink sacs entirely due to its environment. Defensive ink is completely useless in the pitch-black deep ocean. The octopus also lacks the physical ability to change color. Its specialized chromatophores have degraded over millions of evolutionary years. It relies entirely on tactile and chemical senses to hunt. The long arms feature highly sensitive and specialized sensory suckers. These suckers detect the faint physical movements of vent crabs. The octopus primarily preys on small crustaceans hiding among rocks. It crawls methodically over the jagged and sharp basalt formations. Its modified eyes detect only stark contrasts in the water. It cannot form detailed visual images of its immediate surroundings. The creature avoids open swimming to conserve precious metabolic energy. It stays very close to the rocky seafloor at all times. This specialized marine predator shows extreme biological adaptation to vent life. Fact number 59. The wharf crab farms specialized bacteria directly on its chest. This unique species is a close relative of the yeti crab. It inhabits the East Scotia Ridge in the freezing Southern Ocean. Scientists first discovered this unusual crustacean in 2010. Unlike the yeti crab, its front claws are relatively bare. Instead, it possesses a dense mat of setae on its ventral side. This hairy chest provides the perfect surface for bacterial growth. The crab positions its underside directly over the warm vent fluid. The surrounding Antarctic Ocean waters remain constantly near freezing. The crab must maintain a very precise physical position. It stays within a narrow thermal band of optimal temperature. Millions of these crabs stack directly on top of each other. They form dense, living biological towers near the vent chimneys. The crabs use specialized mouth appendages to comb their chest hair. They harvest the thick bacterial mats for their daily sustenance. Fact number 61. The Pompeii worm survives extreme oceanic temperature gradients. Its tail rests in water near 80 degrees Celsius. The head remains in a much cooler fluid environment. This cooler water measures only 22 degrees Celsius. A steep gradient exists across its short body. The worm measures roughly 13 centimeters in length. A fleece of bacteria covers its entire back. These microbes provide vital insulation against the heat. Scientists first discovered this species in 1980. The worm builds papery tubes attached to vent chimneys. It rarely leaves these tough protective cylindrical homes. The bacteria also serve as a vital food source. The worm secretes mucus to feed its microbial fleece. This symbiotic relationship ensures survival in harsh conditions. Heat tolerance enzymes from this worm interest biotechnologists. These proteins remain stable at extremely high temperatures. Researchers study these unique enzymes for industrial applications. Fact number 62. Chemosynthetic bacteria form the foundation of vent ecosystems. They process toxic hydrogen sulfide from the vents. This chemical compound smells strongly of rotten eggs. It is highly poisonous to most marine animals. Vent microbes oxidize this sulfide to produce energy. They use this energy to fix carbon dioxide. This process creates organic sugar molecules for nourishment. These bacteria function like plants on the surface. They replace sunlight with chemical bonds for power. Some microbes float freely in the warm fluids. Others form thick mats across the mineral chimneys. Grazing animals feed directly on these bacterial mats. Snails and limpets scrape the microbes off rocks. Many bacteria live inside the tissues of larger animals. This internal symbiosis powers massive communities of life. Scientists estimate thousands of microbial species exist here. Most of these strains remain unidentified by science. Their genetic diversity rivals that of rainforest soils. Fact number 63. The scalyfoot snail builds its shell with iron. It lives near vents in the Indian Ocean. Researchers first collected this mollusk in 2001. The snail absorbs iron sulfides from the water. It incorporates these minerals into its outer shell. This process creates a dark metallic armor plating. The shell contains both greigite and pyrite compounds. Greigite makes the entire snail shell naturally magnetic. The animal also grows iron scales on its foot. Hundreds of overlapping plates protect its soft tissues. This armor defends against predatory crabs and snails. The snail hosts chemosynthetic bacteria in its esophageal gland. This gland grows to an unusually massive size. The bacteria provide all necessary nutrition for the snail. The snail never needs to actively hunt for food. Its digestive tract has shrunk to a tiny remnant. Scientists mapped the full genome of this snail recently. The species faces threats from deep ocean mining. It is currently listed as an endangered species. Fact number 64. Yeti crabs cultivate their own food on their bodies. These blind crustaceans possess long hairy front arms. The pale hairs are called setae by marine biologists. Dense colonies of bacteria grow on these specialized hairs. The crab waves its arms in the vent fluid. This motion washes fresh minerals over the bacterial colonies. The constant movement maximizes the microbial growth rate. When hungry, the crab harvests its own farm. It uses specialized mouthparts to scrape the bacteria off. Scientists first observed this behavior in 2005. Biologists named this first discovered species Kiwa hirsuta. The crabs cluster tightly around the warm fluid flows. Hundreds of individuals can occupy a single square meter. They compete fiercely for the best thermal positions. Water too far from the vent is too cold. Water too close to the source is lethally hot. The crabs maintain a precise distance from the chimney. They lack functional eyes but possess sensory bristles. These bristles detect chemical changes in the surrounding water. Fact number 65. Giant tube worms exhibit incredibly fast growth rates. The species Rifsha pachyptila grows up to 2 meters. They can reach this length in under 2 years. This makes them the fastest growing marine invertebrates known. These worms completely lack a mouth and a stomach. They rely entirely on symbiotic bacteria for their survival. The bacteria reside in a specialized organ called the trophisome. This organ fills most of the worm's body cavity. The worm absorbs hydrogen sulfide through its red plume. Hemoglobin in the worm's blood binds to the sulfide. This special hemoglobin prevents the sulfide from causing poisoning. The blood transports the chemicals directly to the bacteria. The bright red plume extends into the water column. It retracts instantly if the worm senses any danger. Crabs frequently attempt to nip off the exposed plumes. The worms secrete tough chitinous tubes for physical protection. These white tubes attach firmly to the rocky seafloor. Empty tubes remain long after the animal has died. They provide shelter for other small vent creatures. Fact number 66. Vent shrimp possess unique organs to detect thermal radiation. The species Rimicaris exoculator swarms around Atlantic hydrothermal vents. These shrimp lack normal image-forming eyes on stalks. Instead, they have a specialized light-sensing organ on their back. This dorsal organ contains a highly sensitive visual pigment. It detects the faint infrared glow of the black smokers. The hot vent fluid emits a very weak light. This phenomenon is known as black body radiation. The shrimp use this sensor to navigate the vents. It prevents them from swimming into boiling water. Millions of these shrimp can cover a single chimney. They scrape minerals and bacteria from the rock surfaces. Their swarming behavior resembles a massive underwater hive. The shrimp constantly jostle each other for feeding space. They reproduce by releasing larvae into the ocean currents. The larvae drift for months before finding a new vent. During this pelagic stage, the young shrimp possess normal eyes. These eyes degenerate as the dorsal organ fully develops. This transformation perfectly adapts them to their adult habitat. Fact number 67. Deep-sea mussels host two different types of bacteria. These mollusks belong to the biological genus called Bathymodialus. They thrive at both hydrothermal vents and cold seeps. Their gills contain highly specialized cells called bacteriocytes. One bacterial type processes toxic hydrogen sulfide for energy. The second type consumes methane gas bubbling from the seafloor. This dual symbiosis provides a major survival advantage. The mussels can survive on either chemical energy source. If sulfide levels drop, they rely on methane oxidation. This flexibility allows them to colonize diverse vent environments. The mussels anchor themselves to rocks using strong byssal threads. They form vast dense beds across the ocean floor. These mussel beds create a complex three-dimensional habitat. Hundreds of smaller species live among the tightly packed shells. Scale worms and tiny crabs hide in the narrow crevices. The mussels filter large volumes of water every day. They can also filter feed on normal marine snow. This provides a third nutritional pathway during chemical shortages. Their adaptable nature makes them highly successful deep-sea pioneers. Fact number 68. Eelpouts act as top predators in many vent ecosystems. These deep-sea fish resemble pale sluggish eels. Biologists classify these predators within the family Zoarcidae. Adult eelpouts measure roughly 30 centimeters in total length. They swim slowly among the tube worms and mussels. Their diet consists primarily of small crabs and amphipods. They occasionally nip the exposed plumes of tube worms. These fish lack symbiotic bacteria found in other vent life. They rely entirely on hunting and scavenging for nutrition. Eelpouts tolerate high concentrations of heavy metals in the water. Their livers process and isolate these toxic metallic compounds. They spend their entire adult lives near the active vents. The fish often rest directly on the warm rocks. This behavior might help regulate their internal metabolic rate. Females lay small clusters of eggs in rocky crevices. They guard the developing eggs from other scavenging predators. The young hatch as fully formed miniature versions of adults. They immediately begin hunting tiny crustaceans in the bacterial mats. Eelpouts represent the apex of the chemosynthetic food web. Fact number 69. Hydrothermal vent ecosystems have relatively short geological lifespans. A typical vent remains active for only a few decades. Tectonic shifts frequently reroute the underground magma channels. When the hot fluid stops flowing, the ecosystem collapses. The symbiotic bacteria immediately lose their vital chemical fuel. Without bacteria, the giant tube worms and mussels starve. Scavengers arrive to consume the decaying biological material. Soon, only empty white shells remain on the basalt. To survive as a species, vent creatures must migrate. They release millions of microscopic larvae into the water column. Ocean currents carry these tiny organisms for hundreds of miles. The larvae drift in suspended animation in the freezing water. They wait for specific chemical cues from a new vent. Upon detecting hydrogen sulfide, they drop to the seafloor. They settle on fresh lava flows and begin to grow. A new community can form in just a few years. This cycle of destruction and rebirth continues endlessly. It drives rapid evolution among the deep-sea vent species. Fact number 70. The Lost City vent field hosts an entirely different ecosystem. Scientists discovered this unique area in the year 2000. It sits on the Atlantis Massif in the Atlantic Ocean. Unlike black smokers, these vents do not rely on magma. They form through a chemical reaction called serpentinization. Seawater reacts directly with the deep exposed mantle rocks. This reaction produces heat and highly alkaline fluids. The vent water reaches a pH level of 11. This matches the alkalinity of standard household ammonia. The chimneys here consist of white calcium carbonate. Some of these pale towers reach 60 meters tall. The fluid contains very little carbon dioxide or hydrogen sulfide. Instead, it releases high amounts of hydrogen gas and methane. Unique archaea microbes thrive in this extreme alkaline environment. They form thick slimy biofilms on the white mineral spires. Very few larger animals live at the Lost City vents. Small snails and amphipods graze on the microbial biofilms. The site has remained active for over 30,000 years. Scientists believe early life on Earth may have started here. Similar alkaline vents might exist on icy moons like Enceladus. Fact number 71. The scalyfoot snail builds its shell using metallic iron. Scientists discovered this unique gastropod in 2001. It lives exclusively in Indian Ocean hydrothermal vent fields. These fields sit at a depth of 3 kilometers. The snail absorbs dissolved minerals from the venting fluids. It incorporates iron sulfide directly into its outer skeleton. No other known animal uses iron in this manner. The resulting armor provides protection against predatory crab claws. The snail also features overlapping metallic scales on its foot. These scales contain heavy gragite and pyrite mineral compounds. Gragite makes the snail naturally magnetic to researchers' tools. Inside its body, A massive gland houses symbiotic bacteria. This gland takes up over 9% of its volume. The bacteria produce all necessary nutrients for the host. This internal food supply eliminates the need for foraging. The iron armor simply protects this delicate internal ecosystem. Researchers study these shells for advanced military armor designs. The structural integrity remains unprecedented in the natural world. Fact number 72. The Yeti crab farms its own bacterial food supply. Marine biologists first identified this crustacean in 2005. It thrives along the Pacific-Antarctic ridge near active vents. The crab possesses unusually long arms covered in pale bristles. These dense bristles resemble thick fur or blonde hair. Scientists call these specialized hair structures by the name setae. The setae provide a perfect surface for growing bacteria. The crab waves its arms through the methane-rich water. This constant motion bathes the bacteria in essential nutrients. The microbes multiply rapidly in the warm vent currents. Once the bacterial crop matures, the crab harvests it. It uses specialized mouth appendages to scrape the bristles clean. This farming method provides a highly reliable food source. The Yeti crab completely bypasses the traditional oceanic food web. It relies entirely on the chemical output of the earth. Over a dozen distinct species of Yeti crabs exist today. Each species exhibits slightly different bristle arrangements and farming techniques. Fact number 73. The Pompeii worm holds the record for extreme heat tolerance. It builds delicate paper-like tubes directly on smoking chimneys. The tail end of the worm rests near boiling water. Temperatures inside the tube can reach 80 degrees Celsius. The worm's head extends into much cooler ocean water. This creates a massive temperature gradient across its body. No other complex animal survives such extreme thermal conditions. A thick fleece of symbiotic bacteria covers the worm's back. These microbes secrete special proteins to insulate their host. The bacterial layer acts like a microscopic thermal blanket. It absorbs heavy metals emitted by the hydrothermal fluid. This absorption prevents toxic minerals from poisoning the worm. The worm secretes a sugary mucus from special dorsal glands. This mucus feeds the protective bacterial colony covering its skin. The relationship represents a perfect evolutionary adaptation to extreme heat. Scientists discovered this remarkable species in 1980. They named it after the famous ash-covered Roman city. Fact number 74. Giant tube worms grow faster than any other marine invertebrate. They can increase their length by 85 centimeters annually. These creatures entirely lack a mouth and a digestive tract. They rely completely on internal bacteria for their survival. A specialized organ called the traphosome houses these microbes. The traphosome accounts for half of the worm's body weight. A bright red plume extends from the top of the tube. This gill-like structure absorbs hydrogen sulfide from the water. Hemoglobin in the worm's blood binds to the toxic sulfide. The blood transports this chemical directly to the internal bacteria. The microbes convert the sulfide into organic carbon compounds. The host worm then absorbs these nutrients for rapid growth. These worms often form massive thickets around new vent sites. The dense colonies provide shelter for hundreds of other species. Individual tubes can reach lengths exceeding 2 meters over time. Their rapid colonization stabilizes the local vent ecosystem very quickly. Fact number 75. Vent shrimp possess a unique thermal sensing organ on their backs. They completely lack traditional image-forming eyes on external stalks. Normal visual eyes would be useless in the pitch-black abyss. Instead, they have two large lobes located beneath their carapace. These lobes contain special light-sensitive pigments known as rhodopsin. The organ detects faint infrared radiation emitted by hot vents. This thermal glow remains entirely invisible to the human eye. The shrimp use this sense to navigate the dangerous environment. It helps them find nutrient-rich areas near the hot fluid. It also prevents them from swimming directly into boiling water. Millions of these shrimp swarm the chimneys in the Atlantic. They scrape bacterial mats directly off the mineral deposits. Their specialized mouthparts act exactly like tiny biological snowplows. The shrimp constantly jostle each other for the best feeding positions. Some individuals get pushed too close to the superheated water. Their thermal sensors provide crucial split-second warnings to avoid death. Fact number 76. Eelpouts function as top predators in many hydrothermal vent ecosystems. These solitary fish swim slowly among the tube worm thickets. They typically measure about 30 centimeters in total body length. Their bodies feature a distinct pale pink or white coloration. Eelpouts possess an incredibly slow metabolic rate for their size. This slow metabolism helps them conserve vital energy in the deep. They spend most of their time resting on the mineral formations. The fish wait patiently for small crustaceans to wander nearby. They rely on a sudden ambush strategy rather than active pursuit. When a vent shrimp approaches, the eelpout strikes very suddenly. They also consume small pieces of exposed tube worm plumes. Eelpouts can survive the high chemical toxicity of the vent fluids. Their livers process and eliminate heavy metals with remarkable efficiency. Scientists frequently observe them curled around the bases of chimneys. They rarely migrate to other vent fields across the ocean floor. Most individuals will spend their entire lives at a single vent. Fact number 77. Deep sea mussels host two distinct types of symbiotic bacteria. Most vent creatures rely on only one specific microbial partner. These mussels harbor both methane oxidizing and sulfide oxidizing microbial strains. The bacteria live inside specialized cells within the mussel gills. This dual symbiosis provides a massive survival advantage for them. Vent fluid chemical composition can change rapidly over short periods. Sometimes a vent stops emitting hydrogen sulfide completely without warning. When sulfide levels drop, the mussel relies on methane consumers. If methane decreases, the sulfide oxidizing bacteria take over the workload. This flexibility allows mussels to survive fluctuating chemical environments easily. They often outlive other vent species during major geological shifts. These bivalves can form massive beds covering hundreds of square meters. The dense beds create complex microhabitats for smaller crawling invertebrates. Some mussel beds contain over 1,000 individuals per square meter. They attach to the rocky substrate using strong biological byssal threads. Researchers have found these highly resilient mussels at vents globally. Fact number 78. The wharf crab represents a very unique species of yeti crab. Scientists discovered them near Antarctica in the year 2010. These crabs farm bacteria primarily on their chest and underbelly. Other yeti crabs grow bacteria mostly on their extended front claws. The wharf crab uses comb-like mouthparts to harvest its chest crop. They live in incredibly dense clusters around the hot vent chimneys. Researchers counted up to 600 crabs per single square meter. They stack directly on top of each other in massive piles. The water near the Antarctic vents features extreme temperature gradients. The fluid exiting the vent reaches nearly 400 degrees Celsius. Just a few centimeters away, the surrounding water is near freezing. The crabs constantly adjust their position to maintain optimal warmth. Males generally occupy the warmer areas closer to the fluid flow. Females move to cooler waters when carrying their developing egg clusters. The colder water helps ensure proper embryonic development for the offspring. This migration requires careful navigation of the toxic mineral deposits. Fact number 79. Vent octopuses exhibit bizarre adaptations for the harsh hydrothermal environment. They completely lack an ink sac for typical defensive maneuvers. Ink proves completely useless in an environment with absolutely zero sunlight. Their skin remains a ghostly pale white or a translucent pink. They have lost the natural ability to change color for camouflage. These small cephalopods measure only about 20 centimeters across their bodies. They hunt exclusively along the seafloor near active smoking vent chimneys. Their diet consists mostly of tiny amphipods and small squat crabs. The octopus uses its sensitive arms to probe deep dark crevices. Its eyes are functional but adapted only for detecting faint bioluminescence. Scientists rarely observe them swimming freely in the open water column. Swimming consumes far too much precious energy in the deep sea. They prefer to crawl slowly over the jagged basalt rock formations. Their blood contains a special copper-based protein called marine hemocyanin. This protein transports oxygen efficiently in cold, high-pressure aquatic environments. The vent octopus represents a highly specialized and unique evolutionary branch. Fact number 80. Chemosynthetic bacteria form the absolute foundation of deep vent ecosystems. These microscopic organisms perform a process quite similar to plant photosynthesis. Instead of sunlight, they use raw chemical energy from the earth. They oxidize hydrogen sulfide and methane escaping directly from the crust. This chemical reaction produces vital sugar molecules and organic carbon compounds. A single drop of vent fluid contains millions of these microbes. Some bacteria float freely in the warm water plumes above vents. Others form thick, gelatinous microbial mats on the surrounding rock surfaces. These dense mats can grow several centimeters thick in just days. Grazing animals consume these mats directly from the hard mineral surfaces. Other specialized bacteria live entirely inside the bodies of larger animals. This internal symbiosis evolved independently across multiple different vent species. Without these microbes, the entire hydrothermal biological community would quickly collapse. They convert toxic inorganic chemicals into vital life-sustaining organic food. Their unique existence proves that complex life can thrive without the sun. Scientists study these deep bacteria to understand the potential origins of life. Fact number 81. The Pompeii worm demonstrates a high temperature tolerance. Scientists first discovered this species in 1980. It lives directly on active hydrothermal chimney walls. The worm builds a thin, protective paper-like tube. It builds these protective tubes from secreted proteins. Its tail rests in 80 degrees Celsius vent water. Its head extends outward into 20-degree ocean currents. This steep gradient spans mere centimeters of distance. No other complex animal survives such temperature extremes. A thick fleece of bacteria covers its back. These microbes provide essential insulation against the heat. They also process toxic metals from vent fluids. The worm feeds on these symbiotic bacterial colonies. It secretes a sugary mucus from its glands. This mucus sustains the microbes on its skin. Researchers study these bacteria for industrial enzyme applications. Their proteins remain perfectly stable at boiling temperatures. The Pompeii worm measures about 13 centimeters long. Its pale gray body ends in red gills. These gills absorb oxygen from the surrounding water. This creature perfectly exploits the steep thermal boundaries. Fact number 82. The vent crab undergoes a significant visual transformation. Researchers first collected this species in 1977. It lives primarily among dense tube worm clusters. Adult crabs appear completely blind to human observers. These adult crabs completely lack standard image-forming eyes. However, their larval stages possess functional compound eyes. These larvae swim in the upper ocean layers. They use sunlight to navigate and find food. As they mature, they sink to the vents. Their eyes undergo a major physical change over time. The compound lenses dissolve completely during this metamorphosis. A naked retina replaces the traditional eye structure. This new sensory organ cannot form visual images. Instead, it detects faint thermal radiation from vents. The mineral chimneys emit a dim infrared glow. The crabs use this glow to locate food. This prevents them from wandering into freezing waters. It also stops them from entering boiling fluids. Their modified eyes function as precise thermal sensors. Adult vent crabs measure approximately 5 centimeters across. They scavenge dead animals near the vent openings. Their white shells blend into the mineral deposits. Fact number 83. The scalyfoot snail builds its shell with iron. Scientists discovered this gastropod in 2001. It inhabits the Kairai hydrothermal vent field ecosystem. This specific vent field lies in the Indian Ocean. The snail incorporates iron sulfides into its skeleton. It is the only known animal doing this. Gragite and pyrite form the outer shell layer. These metallic compounds make the shell highly magnetic. The snail also grows iron-plated scales on its foot. These scales protect against venomous predatory snail attacks. They also deflect attacks from aggressive vent crabs. The middle shell layer consists of soft periostracum. This soft organic layer absorbs impact energy efficiently. The innermost layer is made of standard aragonite. This three-tiered armor inspires modern military vehicle designs. The snail houses symbiotic bacteria in its esophagus. A specialized internal gland contains these chemosynthetic microbes. The bacteria produce all the necessary daily nutrients. The snail rarely needs to eat solid food. Its heart makes up 4% of its volume. This massive heart pumps oxygen to the bacteria. Fact number 84. The vent octopus represents a unique cephalopod adaptation. Researchers first described this species in 1998. It lives near vents in the Pacific Ocean. This small octopus lacks an ink sac entirely. Ink proves useless in the completely dark abyss. The animal measures about 20 centimeters in length. Its skin appears mostly translucent and slightly yellowish. Large eyes sit on the sides of its head. These eyes have lost their complex focusing abilities. They likely only detect faint, distant bioluminescent flashes. The octopus crawls slowly across the mineral chimneys. It uses specialized suckers to grip the rocks. These suckers can detect chemical signatures in water. The octopus preys primarily on small vent crabs. It relies on tactile hunting rather than vision. The creature avoids the hottest vent fluid streams. It prefers water temperatures around 10 degrees Celsius. Male specimens feature a specially modified reproductive arm. No female specimens have ever been captured alive. Their exact reproductive cycle remains a scientific mystery. This species demonstrates extreme specialization to vent life. Fact number 85. Zooarcid fish act as apex predators at vents. These slender fish closely resemble common shallow water eels. They measure roughly 30 centimeters in total length. Their bodies appear pale white or slightly pink. They swim slowly among the dense tube worms. These fish tolerate high concentrations of toxic hydrogen sulfide. Their blood contains highly specialized hemoglobin protein molecules. This hemoglobin binds oxygen tightly in poor conditions. The fish feed on small shrimp and amphipods. They also consume pieces of exposed tube worms. Their metabolism operates at a very slow rate. This conserves energy in the deep ocean environment. They rarely leave the immediate hydrothermal vent area. The surrounding cold water acts as a rigid barrier. They prefer temperatures between 5 and 10 degrees. Scientists observe them resting directly on mineral chimneys. Their skin secretes a thick protective mucus layer. This thick mucus defends against heavy metal accumulation. They represent the top of the local food chain. Their presence indicates a mature hydrothermal vent ecosystem. Fact number 86. Deep-sea mussels host two distinct bacterial symbionts. This dual symbiosis provides a massive survival advantage. Most vent creatures rely on one bacterial type. These mussels harbor both sulfide oxidizing and methane oxidizing microbes. They store these bacteria inside their specialized gills. The mussel gills appear thick and unusually fleshy. Sulfide bacteria convert hydrogen sulfide into organic carbon. Methane bacteria utilize dissolved methane gas for energy. This allows the mussels to exploit multiple chemical sources. If sulfide levels drop, they rely on methane. This flexibility helps them survive changing vent conditions. Vent fluid chemistry fluctuates rapidly over short periods. The mussels can also filter feed from the water. They form massive beds covering the basalt rocks. Hundreds of individuals pack into a single square meter. These dense mussel beds create habitats for other species. Small worms and crabs hide between their shells. The mussels attach to rocks using strong byssal threads. They can detach and move if temperatures rise. They thrive constantly in complete, eternal ocean darkness. Fact number 87. The Yeti crab farms its own bacterial food. Marine biologists discovered this crustacean in 2005. It lives deep along the Pacific-Antarctic ridge system. The crab measures 15 centimeters in body length. Dense, pale yellow setae cover its long arms. These hair-like structures resemble fur to the naked eye. Epibiotic bacteria grow thickly on these hairy arms. The crab actively cultivates these dense microbial colonies. It waves its arms in the hydrothermal fluid currents. This motion washes fresh chemicals over the bacteria. The microbes use these minerals for rapid chemosynthesis. The crab then harvests the bacteria for nourishment. It uses specialized mouth appendages to scrape its arms. This farming method provides a highly reliable food source. The Yeti crab lacks functional eyes almost completely. It navigates the vent field using chemical sensors. These sensors detect hydrogen sulfide in the water. The Yeti crab stays close to the vent openings. It requires the chemical flow to sustain its farm. This discovery added a new family to crustacean taxonomy. Fact number 88. Vent limpets graze directly on active mineral chimneys. These tiny mollusks measure just a few millimeters across. They possess a very simple, cap-shaped protective shell. Their shells often appear blackened by mineral deposits. They cling tightly to the steep chimney walls. A strong muscular foot keeps them anchored securely. They face constant streams of scalding vent fluid. The limpets feed on microbial mats covering the rocks. They use a specialized dewar to scrape the surface. This dewar contains teeth reinforced with iron compounds. The iron makes the teeth hard enough to scrape rocks. They ingest both the bacteria and the mineral particles. Their digestive systems isolate the nutritious organic matter. They expel the useless rock dust as solid waste. These limpets grow very slowly in this harsh environment. Some species live for more than a decade. They reproduce by releasing larvae into the water column. The ocean currents carry these larvae to new vents. Only a tiny fraction survive this difficult journey. They play a crucial role in controlling bacterial growth. Fact number 89. The wharf crab dominates the Antarctic hydrothermal vents. Scientists first found them in 2010. They live at depths of 2,400 meters. The water temperature near the vents is extreme. The surrounding ocean stays below 0 degrees Celsius. The vent fluid emerges at nearly 400 degrees. The crabs must find the perfect thermal zone. They crowd together in extremely dense local aggregations. Researchers count 600 crabs per square meter. They stack on top of each other near the heat. Unlike the Yeti crab, they grow bacteria on their chests. Density cover their undersides instead of their arms. They scrape this bacterial mat using specialized combs. The combs transfer the microbes directly to their mouths. Females must leave the warm vents to release eggs. The cold deep ocean water damages their bodies. Many females do not survive the reproductive journey. This process ensures the survival of their offspring. The larvae eventually settle back onto the warm chimneys. Their tight clusters form living blankets over the rocks. Fact number 90. Vent shrimp form massive swarms around Atlantic black smokers. They completely obscure the underlying rocky mineral chimneys. A single swarm contains tens of thousands of individuals. These vent shrimp lack traditional eye stalks and lenses. Instead, they possess a unique dorsal eye organ. Fact number 91. Viruses outnumber all other biological entities at hydrothermal vents. A single milliliter of vent fluid contains millions of viruses. These microscopic structures infect local bacterial populations constantly. The viral infections cause bacterial cells to burst open. This process releases vital carbon back into the environment. Other organisms quickly consume these newly available organic molecules. This viral shunt mechanism drives the local nutrient cycle. Then viruses possess unique genetic adaptations for extreme heat. Their DNA remains stable at temperatures exceeding 90 degrees Celsius. Some viral genomes contain genes borrowed from their hosts. These stolen genes help regulate host metabolism during infection. Scientists identified over 30,000 distinct viral populations here. Most of these viruses remain entirely unknown to science. They represent a massive reservoir of undiscovered genetic diversity. Their constant predation prevents any single bacterial species from dominating. This microscopic warfare maintains ecosystem balance on the seafloor. Fact number 92. The Yeti crab actively farms its own bacterial food. This crustacean lives near the Pacific Antarctic ridge vents. Thick white bristles cover the crab's elongated front claws. These specialized hair-like structures are scientifically known as setae. Specialized chemosynthetic bacteria grow densely along every single seta. The crab constantly waves its arms through the water. This rhythmic motion washes fresh vent fluids over the bacteria. The movement provides dissolved minerals to the growing microbial crop. Hydrogen sulfide nourishes the bacteria clinging to the claws. Once the bacterial colonies mature, the crab harvests them. It uses specialized mouthparts to scrape the bacteria free. The Yeti crab relies entirely on this harvested food source. Its digestive tract shows no evidence of other prey. Scientists first documented this rhythmic farming behavior in 2006. The crabs often gather in massive, dense colonies. Up to 600 individuals occupy a single square meter. Fact number 93. The scalyfoot gastropod builds its shell with iron sulfides. This unique snail inhabits vents in the Indian Ocean. It is the only known animal to use iron biomineralization. The outer shell layer consists of gragite and pyrite. These iron compounds make the snail shell highly magnetic. A strong magnet can easily pick up the living animal. The snail's fleshy foot features hundreds of hardened dermal scales. These overlapping iron scales provide armor against venomous predators. Predatory cone snails cannot penetrate this metallic defense system. The iron materials come directly from the hydrothermal vent fluids. Bacteria living inside the snail's esophageal gland process these minerals. The snail houses these symbiotic microbes in a specialized pouch. The microbes provide all necessary nutrition for the host. The snail never needs to eat solid food at all. Scientists discovered this remarkable metallic creature in 2001. It survives at depths of almost 3,000 meters. Fact number 94. The vent octopus exhibits unique adaptations for hydrothermal life. This small cephalopod lives near the East Pacific Rise. It lacks the defensive ink sac found in other octopuses. Ink clouds are completely useless in this pitch-black environment. The animal relies instead on stealth and rapid movement. Its eyes are functional but poorly adapted for forming images. They primarily detect the faint thermal glow of vent chimneys. The octopus hunts small crustaceans living among the tube worms. It uses its muscular arms to probe deep into crevices. The creature has completely lost the ability to change color. Its skin remains a constant pale, translucent white hue. The vent octopus has an unusually high metabolic rate. The warm vent waters accelerate its cellular processes significantly. Scientists estimate its maximum lifespan is only about 1 year. Females attach their large eggs directly to the warm basalt. The warm rocks incubate the developing embryos very efficiently. Fact number 95. Hydrothermal vent communities rely on ocean currents for reproduction. Vent sites often remain active for only a few decades. The resident animals must colonize new vents to survive. They release millions of microscopic larvae into the water column. The buoyant larvae float upward into the deep ocean currents. These invisible rivers transport the offspring across vast distances. Some larvae travel hundreds of kilometers before settling down. They enter a state of suspended animation during the journey. Cold deep-sea temperatures slow their metabolism to a crawl. The larvae carry a small reserve of energy-rich lipids. They must find a new active vent before starving. Chemical sensors on their bodies detect faint traces of hydrogen sulfide. This chemical signature guides them downward toward the seafloor. Once they land on a suitable vent, they metamorphose rapidly. They quickly acquire their specific chemosynthetic bacterial partners. This extraordinary dispersal network connects isolated vent fields globally. Fact number 96. Vent ecosystems undergo rapid biological succession as chemistry shifts. A newly formed vent emits clear, extremely hot fluids. Microorganisms are always the first pioneer species to arrive. They form thick microbial mats over the fresh basalt. Small crustaceans soon follow to graze on these bacterial mats. As the vent matures, the fluid temperature begins to drop. Tube worms eventually settle and dominate the local landscape. They grow rapidly and form dense, complex structural forests. Over several years, the mineral deposits narrow the vent chimney. The flow of hydrogen sulfide slowly begins to decrease. Clams and mussels eventually replace the giant tube worms. These bivalves require less chemical energy to sustain their populations. Finally, the vent completely clogs and stops emitting fluids. The chemosynthetic food web collapses within a few short months. Scavengers arrive to consume the decaying remains of the community. Only a barren mound of metallic sulfide minerals remains. Fact number 97. Fossilized hydrothermal vents exist on dry land today. Geological uplift pushes ancient ocean floors onto the continents. Scientists found vent fossils in Canada dating back billions of years. These rock formations preserve microscopic tubes formed by ancient bacteria. The fossils are 3.7 billion years old. They represent some of the oldest known evidence of life. This discovery strongly supports the hydrothermal origin of life theory. Early Earth oceans lacked oxygen and faced constant meteorite impacts. The deep sea offered a stable, protected environment for chemistry. Vents provided abundant heat and essential mineral catalysts. Amino acids form naturally under these specific high-pressure conditions. The porous rock structures acted as primitive cell walls. They concentrated organic molecules until self-replicating systems finally emerged. Modern vent bacteria share traits with these ancient universal ancestors. Studying these ecosystems reveals the likely dawn of terrestrial biology. Fact number 98. Hydrothermal vents face severe threats from deep-sea mining operations. The vent chimneys contain massive deposits of valuable metals. These ores include copper, zinc, gold, and rare earth elements. Mining companies design massive robotic machines to harvest these minerals. The extraction process completely destroys the fragile chimney structures. It eradicates the specialized biological communities living on the rocks. Mining also generates massive plumes of suspended toxic sediment. Deep ocean currents carry this harmful dust for many miles. The sediment clogs the delicate feeding structures of filter feeders. It buries adjacent ecosystems under thick layers of unnatural mud. Noise from mining machinery disrupts marine mammal communication networks. Vent species have highly limited geographic distributions across the seafloor. Destroying a single vent field could cause multiple localized extinctions. International regulatory bodies currently debate the rules for exploitation. Scientists advocate for protected marine sanctuaries around these unique habitats. Fact number 99. Hydrothermal vents likely exist on other worlds in our solar system. Jupiter's moon Europa harbors a massive subsurface liquid ocean. Saturn's moon Enceladus also contains a deep global sea. The Cassini spacecraft detected silica nanoparticles erupting from Enceladus. These specific particles only form in hot, alkaline hydrothermal environments. The plumes also contain molecular hydrogen and complex organic compounds. These are the exact chemical ingredients required for chemosynthesis. Gravitational friction from the gas giants heats the moon's interiors. This tidal heating drives hydrothermal activity on the alien seafloors. Astrobiologists believe these extraterrestrial vents are prime targets for exploration. If life started at vents on Earth, it could happen elsewhere. Future space missions will deploy autonomous submarines into these oceans. These probes will search for chemical signatures of alien microbes. The vent creatures of Earth serve as vital biological models. They show us exactly what extraterrestrial life might look like. Fact number 100. Hydrothermal vents play a crucial role in the global carbon cycle. Chemosynthetic bacteria fix massive amounts of dissolved inorganic carbon. They transform this carbon into usable biological organic matter. This process supports dense communities of life in the abyss. When these organisms die, their carbon remains on the seafloor. It eventually becomes incorporated into the shifting tectonic plates. The subduction process carries this carbon deep into the Earth's mantle. Volcanoes eventually release it back into the atmosphere millions of years later. Vents also regulate the chemical composition of the entire ocean. They remove magnesium from seawater and add essential iron. This chemical exchange has operated continuously for billions of years. Without hydrothermal vents, the ocean's chemistry would be vastly different. The surface ecosystems rely indirectly on this deep-sea mineral cycling. The darkest depths of the ocean sustain the sunlit world above. Life on Earth remains a deeply interconnected, planetary-scale system. We have reached the end of our deep-sea journey. 100 facts have illuminated the darkest corners of the ocean. We explored a world completely devoid of warming sunlight. We discovered life thriving under crushing pressures and extreme heat. Microbes transform toxic volcanic gases into the foundation of life. Giant tube worms build crimson forests in the pitch black. Blind crabs farm bacteria on their own hairy claws. Iron-plated snails wear magnetic armor forged from hydrothermal fluids. These creatures challenge our fundamental understanding of biology.